Good morning. Welcome to our Boardwalk Talks program. My name is Mendel Graber, and we have walked over from the estuarium across the street to our marine research labs, and we are here with Dr. Ruth Carmichael, who is one of our research faculty members here. She studies a number of different subjects, and this morning she is going to talk to us about the Wastewater Footprint project, which is a resource that has come from some of the research that her lab has done. So with that, I am going to let Dr. Carmichael tell you about it.
Great, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here this morning to talk to you guys a little bit about our wastewater footprint, which, as Mendel said, is a tool, a resource, basically for anybody in our community, whether you're a teacher or you're an interested member of the public or you're a municipal, state, or even federal authority. The point of this resource is to help educate and provide information and a clearinghouse of resources on wastewater and how it influences our local water quality, and maybe more importantly, what are some tangible things that we can do here in our community to make a difference and hopefully improve our local water quality. So just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're talking about here, every year our best estimates is there's somewhere on the order of about 150 billion gallons of untreated wastewater that manages to make its way into our local waters, and that's just in the United States alone. So we're really fortunate here in the Mobile Bay watershed. And this kind of shows you all the different sources, possible sources of wastewater that we have in our system. So it's not just human sewage, but also can be things like runoff from impervious surfaces, or people who have boats or houseboats where there might be dumping, or where we may have some kind of failing infrastructure, where we may have, say, a pump system that's not working and we have accidental overflows. So here in the Mobile Bay system, we're really fortunate that our watershed is, while it's really large, we have about 14,000 wastewater treatment plants that help to protect our water quality and treat our human wastewater. Now, the concern here, though, is that over the next 10 years, it's estimated that worldwide, and certainly here in the United States, we're looking at least a 20% increase in our demand for wastewater treatment. And so what that means is that we're going to not only have to be able to maintain our 14,000 existing wastewater treatment facilities, but we're going to need to either expand those or build new ones to help meet the increasing demand that comes with increasing population, and in particular, increasing populations here on our coast. So one of the things that I want to just talk a little bit about is why this is really important to us. We are concerned about wastewater because wastewater can bring with it some things that are potentially harmful to people. So it can bring important microbes or pathogens. So those include bacteria or viruses that might make people sick. It also can bring nutrients that would affect our water quality and affect habitat for animals and plants in the water. And that's really important because we like to swim, we like to boat, we like to fish, and we like to harvest shellfish, and we also want to make sure that those are safe for us to eat. And so we're all very concerned about our coastal resources. We love living here, we love being able to enjoy the aesthetics of the coast, and we also want to make sure that we are safe and our environment is safe. So one of the ways that we started with this program to develop a tool that would be useful to the community was first doing research. And we went out and we started our research program about 10 years ago, where we were looking at the water quality and the relationships between our human land use, or our human footprint, and the water quality, specifically our wastewater inputs. And what we found from that research was that we could actually see in our data that wastewater was getting into our system. It was affecting our local resources, in particular our water quality and our oysters. But the cool thing that we found was that our local wastewater treatment plants were doing their job. They were actually helping to improve the quality of our water. And so what that made us really realize is that balance and planning is incredibly important. We need to balance our urbanization and our land use with protection of the resources that are important to us. And so that means having information out for the public and for decision makers so that they know what's going on in our water, but they also giving them, moving from the science to practical application. So what can people do about it? And so what we did was we took all of our data and we had a couple of big meetings with local stakeholders, all different kinds of authorities, local business owners, ecotour operators, and we asked people, what do you want to do with this information? If we tell you something about wastewater and how it's affecting the community, what do you want to do with it? And a big big component of the feedback that we got from the public was that they really wanted a clearinghouse, a place where they could go and know that they could get information on water quality. Because now there's a lot of different resources in the state level, at the federal level, and the different cities and towns, but people didn't know how to get that information. And so we wanted to focus on creating a clearinghouse that would put all the information in one place, that whether, like I said, you're a teacher or a member of the public or a decision maker, you could go to that one place and get information. But also people said, hey, you know, we're excited about the science, but what we really want is for you to take that science and tell us what we can do with it. What does it really mean for us? And how can we use this information? What can we do? And so part of our developing this tool was including a component that would actually tell people what you can do. So how do you report something if you think if there's a failing, say, septic system, or if there's a problem with wastewater treatment, or what do you do if you are interested in knowing what the water quality is where you are? And so all of that is incorporated into this tool, that the centerpiece of which is a web page. And so I invite you guys, as we're going to go through, I'm going to show you some slides that take you through our web page and show you what you can get out of this resource. But I invite you to visit our website here. You can type it into your computer if you're doing that at home, and you can actually follow along with us and see what we have to offer you. So this is our main page. So when you log on to the website for this tool, the first thing you'll see is this headline here. And then if you scroll down that page, you'll get to a 6-part menu that allows you to explore a little more deeply into some of these topics. So for example, if you click on our human footprint, it'll tell you more about what I was talking about, like what are our wastewater concerns, why do we care about nutrients or microbes, and what are the problems. A little bit about the Grand Bay system, which is where we conducted our initial research here on the Alabama-Mississippi coast. You can actually look at the actual data and the methods from our project. And so you can step through, for example, we have a really cool video that allows you to see land use change through time in the area where we did our work. And you can actually see the data that we got in the sediments, in the water, and in the oysters. Then this is the part that we hope everyone's also very interested in. That's the bits where it tells you about what you can do. We have some resources, some downloadable fact sheets and things that you can take away with you, including location-specific information. So right now we have information for Grand Bay on the Alabama-Mississippi coast, for Mobile Bay, and also specifically for Dog River. And then finally, some resources. So I want to take you guys on a little tour through some of these. So let's go ahead and click on the first section here. So if you, for example, go into Methods and Results section, you'll see an accordion menu like this. And I just clicked here on land use modeling, and that shows you all the different approaches that we use to do our land use so that we could relate what's going on land to what's happening in the water. And then below that, we have all the different results. So you can look specifically at land use change results, or nutrient and microbe results, or specific water bodies, and the results from our wastewater treatment plant analyses. If you go back and then click on, for example, what you can do, in this section you can get things like specific tips on clean water, or if you're doing a construction or planning project, what you can do if you're interested specifically in wastewater treatment. And then finally, this is my favorite section here on reporting problems. If you click on that, that'll actually give you all the phone numbers you need to report if you think you have a problem at your home or if you think you see something out on the street. One thing that's really important to remember is our wastewater system is huge. And it's a really hard thing to manage, and it really takes all of us to help contribute to that. And so this is where you can really do your part to help improve water quality. Then if you go back into the next section, this is the Take It With You section. This is where we have a lot of those downloads I was talking about, so you can get those location-specific fact sheets. You can also get some downloadable games. So for example, if you're a teacher or if you're an eco-tour operator, we have things that will hopefully add value to your instruction. And so you can download some of these kits, and I can show you, I've got one over here if you want to take a peek. This is a kit that we have offered to eco-tour operators, and it has some games inside that you can have your folks play the game. And then there's also specific instructions on how to use the materials. And we have a survey at the end to help us understand how this has worked. And if you take the survey, we will give you your own little hand sanitizer as a reward for taking our survey and giving us your feedback. The most important thing about this tool is that we do consider it a living resource, which means that there's always more we can add. There's always changes we can make. If you live somewhere and you don't see a fact sheet up here for your location, you can simply send us an email and we will work with you to build a fact sheet for you that's specific to your class or your location or your business. Because what we really want to do is just make sure that this information is useful to the public. And then the last section I want to talk to you guys about is the resources section. This is where you can get a little bit more information. There's some really cool things on here. You can get scientific publications, so we put up publications that are relevant to this work. There's also specific places where you can get actual data, as I mentioned up front. So if you click on the data resources section, for example, it'll provide you with a really long list that you could scroll through. There are all the locations where they have water quality data. For example, this first one is the National Estuarine Research Reserves Monitoring System. And all of these blue highlighted sections are links to the data. So you can actually get data. For example, down here, the USGS has water data. You could click on those links and you can get to those data. And there's a whole long list of those. The section below that is regulatory information. So for example, in this section, you could learn about our National Shellfish Sanitation Program and what that does to help protect your seafood. You could get information from Alabama's Department of Public Health on their water quality monitoring. So this is where we were really creating the clearinghouse that the public asked for, so that you could, because all these resources already exist out there on the internet or in offices, but what we wanted to do is put it all in one place so it'd be super easy for anyone who is interested in this information to get it and then link to these existing outside resources. And so with that, I'm more than happy to take any questions. I do invite everyone to visit our website, download our information. We're really happy to have feedback from everyone and see that this information is getting used. And please let us know if there's anything that you think is missing or needs to be added. And we look forward to seeing you on our website. Thanks.
So the question is there something like this elsewhere in the nation? Like, is there something that you were able to model this off of, or did y'all kind of put this together?
We put this together, and we put this together really with the feedback from the local stakeholders here who told us what they wanted. So we provided a number of sort of mock-up ideas for what we could do with our data, and this is really what the stakeholders told us that they wanted. And so I am not aware of something like this elsewhere. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And ours certainly is focused on our region, but we do try to link people to, when there are federal resources like the National Shellfish Sanitation Program or the USGS data, we want to make sure people in our area also have access to those resources.
Can you explain what you mean by stakeholders?
Stakeholders. So stakeholders is everybody, really. It's a really, really generic term for me to sort of capture everyone from, maybe the guy who cuts my lawn to, our mayor of Mobile or, Dauphin Island, anybody who has an interest in water quality. So it could be someone who builds boats, someone who shellfishes, anyone who is concerned about our economy and public safety is a stakeholder in our project.
What do the fact sheets include? When you share a fact sheet with someone, do we have one of those?
Yeah, so here's an example of one of our fact sheets here. So this is the one we made for Mobile Bay. So basically it has just some general information about why we're concerned about wastewater. So some of the information that I summarized at the beginning of this presentation. It has some bulleted lists of just simple facts of what we know. It also has the links to our website and the additional resources. And there's a back on that. I think there might be one here. So this is an example of the back of one. So this sort of almost has like a little game on the back too. So it gives an example like the examples that I mentioned already about the different sources of wastewater, but it also has some, again, did you know and what you can do. We try to put as much information as possible, as simply as possible, into people's hands so that they have information right there. But we also want to encourage them to come back and visit the webpage for the details when they're ready. And the interesting thing about this, we created this, in some ways it's sort of selfish because we use water quality data all the time in our research. And one of the reasons, this has been really helpful to us because, early on I had students who were looking for these very data and had a hard time finding them. So by building this page, now I perpetually have easy access to all of those resources because they're right there on my website, right? So, we're hoping other people will find that valuable as well.
So the resources for everybody. I mean, that's for teachers, for students, for anyone. And then I think it's best to stress the living website part of this.
Yes.
That we haven't walked away from this. there are still updates every time that something needs to be updated.
Yeah, pretty much we check the email regularly. If someone sends us information to add, obviously we vet everything, make sure that we're putting up good quality information that's verifiable. But pretty much, this will always be a work in progress. We expect it to always be a living resource. And we even invite people on our Take It With You page, if you see a fact sheet and you want to change it or modify it for your group, you can certainly do that. You can take it, you can put your own logo on it, you can use those resources. We just ask people to send it back to us, because what we'll do then is add that to our list of resources that then someone else can use. And so we encourage people to, whether you do it on your own or you work with us, use this information, literally take it with you, and then just let us know what you're doing with it so that we can share that idea to help other people. So always a work in progress.
And then I think this is a good list right here. What impacts our water quality? This is something that probably would be a great resource to anybody.
So we use that when we go out and give presentations, and we use that as a takeaway so people can easily take that with them. And we also do provide that. There are some places where we have, like for example at I think at Five Rivers and some places like that, where we have these out so that people can go there and take them as well.
There's a citizen science water monitoring group called Alabama Water Watch.
Mm-hmm.
Have y'all involved any citizen science for doing water monitoring?
So some members, I think, of that group attended our meetings. So we had meetings where we scoped and developed the product ideas, and then we had a subsequent meeting when we finished the initial website development, where we just opened up the invitation to anyone who was sort of interested, members of the community, and let them, they were sort of the first ones to see this. We unveiled it and then let them give us feedback. So a lot of the additional information we have in the section on the resources came from folks who attended that meeting and folks just like that. Yeah.
With the changes in human activities recently, with people moving from schools and businesses into their homes, and so there would be a change in the location of water use, where people are using their water, and then also the withdrawal and then the discharge with these changes. Does that bring up scientific questions that scientists might be interested in, these changes in human activities?
So theoretically, if you're talking about a place like Mobile where it's sewered, if people are at a school or if they're at their home, it's sort of a zero-sum game because the water all ends up in the same place. So in that case, it's not going to make a difference. It might make some differences, and this is getting out of, would be something you'd have to ask actually Moz, if different pump out stations would then be more or less loaded. But theoretically, everything should be built out to capacity for that location. So it shouldn't really matter as long as you're not adding a whole bunch of new people to the house that it's not built for. It should be built to capacity. So in the end, whether there's more people at the school during the day or at their homes during the day, it all goes to the same place and it should balance it. Does that make sense?
So, Dr. Carmichael, we appreciate it. And this is a great resource for anybody to use at any point in time. And the fact sheets and everything, and definitely it's a definitely big clearinghouse. So
yeah, thank you.